Welcome back to Got No Control podcast. I am your host, Ronek. And before I introduce my special guest today, I want to give a special thank you to our sponsors that help these episodes be possible. Mayfresh Shop. Mayfresh Shop is a graffiti shop located inside the Lamo Indoor Swap Meet that offers high quality graffiti supply, art supply, and custom airbrush service. So make sure to check them out at Mayfresh. Great people, great prices. Also, want to give a special thank you to our official spray can sponsor here at Got No Control, 360 Spray Paint. 360 Spray Paint is a spray paint company that's manufactured and distributed out of Mexico, and they offer high-quality spray paint to all spray paint enthusiasts. So make sure to check them out at 360 Spray Paint. And with that being said, let me introduce my special guest today, Duel. How you doing today, brother?
All right, great. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for stopping by and giving me a little bit of your time to talk about your history in the graffiti culture. And let's jump into it, brother.
All right, great. We're going to start.
Let's talk about how was it growing up for Duel and what is home to Duel?
All right, so I grew up in New York City, Queens.
Okay.
And, I grew up in a suburban area, so it was kind of like quiet. There wasn't really a lot of like graph where I was growing up.
Okay.
Just because like the subways didn't reach my area because I grew up in Bayside, Queens.
Okay.
And my last stop for the subways was Flushing. So the trains didn't really make it out there. So graph wasn't, visible until you got like on the highways or went towards the city.
And what year are we talking?
1984 is when I started.
Okay, 1984.
Yeah.
So were you able to still see the graffiti on the subways, like the movie, the Wild Style? And stuff?
Yeah. If my mom took me out to go see my dad,
Yeah,
and we traveled by subway, then I would see some graph.
And what do you think got you started becoming a creative individual?
Well, my mom was an oil painter and an art teacher, so
Okay.
before graph was even a thought for me, she already had me like drawing things at the house, like
Okay.
practicing drawing still life
Yeah.
items. So that's I started from there basically.
And do you think that's something that kind of caught your attention, or you kind of just doing it to like keep moms happy?
I mean, she pretty much forced it on me. I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to be outside playing.
Yeah. I
Playing
wanted
with
to play
other
with-
kids or riding
yeah.
a bike or whatever. And she was like, "Yeah, I want you to draw like, this ball of fruit or something like that, or put a shadow on a sphere or something like that." I'll be like, "I want to do that," and she had me doing it. I mean, and that was that. So.
And how long you think you were doing it till you kind of told yourself like, hey, I think I kind of like this now. Like, I think this is for me.
In the beginning, I couldn't really say. I'm not sure. I don't think I really was into it at all.
Okay.
So.
And how was your environment outside? Like being in Queens, how was the environment out there coming up?
Oh, it was pretty bland. I mean, it was a quiet neighborhood.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a high crime area. There wasn't any clubs. There wasn't anything going on. It's just mom and pop shops around there.
Yeah.
Just a residential area. So it wasn't. It was a really quiet area.
So it was very like, just you would say your typical neighborhood, as far as
Probably
just coming
Yeah,
up.
for Queens, it was a quiet Queens neighborhood. But if you've seen that movie Goodfellas,
Yeah.
the scene where Ray Liotta is like hazed at the guy right there, and the guy's working outside.
Yeah.
He's like, fixing the car. He's like, "Is that the guy who put his hands on you?"
Yeah.
Like that. That's the neighborhood I kind of like grew up in, like something like that.
Okay.
It was like real quiet. Everybody kind of kept to themselves. It wasn't anything crazy like that.
Got you. And at what point does a young dude start coming outside and noticing graffiti?
Well, I noticed graffiti at a pretty young age, actually, because originally before we moved to Queens, I grew up in Brooklyn, and
Okay.
my parents had an apartment out there, and they used to go to church out there. So
Yeah.
when we moved to Queens, my dad kept ties with that church, so we used to take the freeway to get to that church.
Oh, okay.
So I used to see all the highway graffiti
Yeah.
all the way from Queens to Brooklyn and back every Sunday. And then sometimes after church, we would go to Manhattan to Chinatown to get
Okay.
groceries because that was the only place you can get Asian groceries.
Yeah.
So whenever we took the Williamsburg Bridge or the Manhattan Bridge, I would see, the graph in Manhattan, Lower East Side.
Yeah.
And then also if I was lucky, a train would be going over the bridge as we were going over the bridge. So
Okay.
we would ride parallel to this train. And I would get to see the whole thing all the way down
Yeah.
there and back. So it was like a field trip every Sunday. I would see Graph in Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan to and from.
How old do you think you were at this time when you were witnessing this graph on the highways?
Uh, at a really young age, but I didn't really start paying attention till maybe about 10, 11.
Okay, and when you say highways, that's more like what we call freeway.
Correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
and to your understanding, do you kind of have a knowledge of what you were seeing, like as far as names, or no?
I did see some names that I do remember. I remember seeing like Sundance Kid, this kid JoJo, Ghost,
Yeah.
TZ, Look Nina, Kel, T-Bone, Sag, Ingy, Quick RTW, and Quick KD were
Okay.
going to war with each other.
Yeah.
Who else was out there? EB, TKC, I would see up there. Visa and Ross, a lot of QV,
Okay.
QV, and QV Risk crews
Yeah.
were out there. On the Queens LIE,
Okay.
on the Long Island Expressway,
Yeah.
going towards the Manhattan. So I would see them on that, to and from.
Okay.
Mhm.
So when did you? I know you say you noticed the writing right on the
Right.
highways going back and forth from church with the family. But at what point do you tell yourself this is something I want to do?
Oh, I wasn't interested at all. I just thought it was cool seeing it because I saw a lot of colors,
Yeah.
and sometimes it would be like a little character right next to their name or
Yeah.
whatever, and I was like, that's kind of cool. And then even when I was like, even the stuff that I saw in my neighborhood, the only graph I would see would be like on handball courts,
Okay.
and you'd have to ride your bike, get to the handball court, and some of the
Yeah.
neighborhoods they didn't clean very well, so I would see that, and I'd be like, "Ooh, that's pretty cool." Like,
Yeah.
there's a high school named Cardoza in my
Okay.
neighborhood. They had some pretty good pieces back there.
And the high school?
Yeah, on the handball court. Yeah.
Okay, on the
So
handball
they
court.
used to have some pretty fly pieces back there, like Rec 127 and Sir 167. Some guys like that.
Yeah.
Had pieces. It was nice. They used good colors. It was very legible. So I was like, that's pretty fresh.
Did you ever get a chance to bump into these individuals and kind of get to know them in a way, or no?
I did meet some of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
at an early age. Yeah.
And how was it a young duo running into these guys? Was it more like, "Hey, what's up? I seen you up," kind of thing, or is it?
No, somebody I already knew them, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Hey, I'm going to stop by this guy's house and be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you want to come?" I was like, "Oh yeah, hell yeah, I want to see these guys.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's check them out."
How to your understanding, what was one of your first introductions to one of those guys? Like, which one was like the first one that you would say you kind of met?
I would probably say maybe Sir 167 might have been one of the
Okay.
first ones I was introduced to. I ran to Crow on a bus.
Okay.
He was like probably one of the first real writers I ever ran into. And
Yeah.
he was like, right down the street from where this guy was, and I think he might have been the one that took me over there. And
Gotcha.
met him. So yeah.
I know in the 80s, like 84 and beyond, and I mean as far as the West Coast, gang activity was very heavy in the West Coast. Was it the same for New York in 84?
Not the way you guys are doing it. No. I mean, they had gangs out there, but it was like different. It was like, you had mafia, Italian stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Obviously you could see all the documentaries.
Yeah.
Gambinos and John Gotti and all that stuff. And then they also had Asian gangs. Like White Tigers, Ghost Shadows, Flying Dragons, and
Okay.
that sort of thing going on too. That was heavy.
Yeah.
But I was like really too young for that, and I didn't really understand it. It wasn't really something that happened around my neighborhood.
Okay.
But like in Manhattan and Asian communities, Italian communities, that sort of thing might have happened
Gotcha.
more frequently there. Whatever I saw was just like stuff in the newspaper. I didn't really see it firsthand.
Did you guys have like, I know in the West Coast we had like placazos, like gang style graffiti getting written on, like marking territory. Did you guys have anything similar like that in New York, or was it always just hip hop style graffiti?
I'm pretty sure they had like actual gang graffiti stuff,
Yeah.
but not where I was.
Okay.
That might have been like more up like in the Bronx, like in neighborhoods like that uptown. And,
Yeah.
I'm not even familiar with any of the gang stuff like that. That might have been a little bit before my time.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I'm imagining like
Yeah.
something like that movie Warriors, like something like that, like those
Gotcha.
kind of names. And they
Yeah.
were marking their areas and stuff like that. But it wasn't that in my neighborhood. No.
Definitely. So you're noticing the graph, you met a guy or two, you see this at the high school handball courts, but at what point do you tell yourself like I'm gonna pick up a can and go out there and do it myself?
Like I said, I wasn't planning on being a writer. I wasn't really interested. I just thought it was cool to see. It
Yeah.
was one of my buddies. He was a break dancer in 8th grade, and he
Okay.
got into graffiti because someone else got him into it.
Yeah.
And me and him were like best friends at the time. And he was
Okay.
like, "Hey, I need a partner." And I was like, "Yeah, that's not me.
I'm not your guy, buddy.
I'm not that dude."
Yeah.
And then I seen like, you know, um, girls sweating them and stuff. So I
Yeah.
was like, a word. I was like, all right, maybe I can do something
Yeah.
with this.
Hey, come back or
Yeah,
click
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Let
do
me
my name or something, whatever type of thing. So I was like, all right. So I started messing around, and I started writing uh graffiti style letters on a piece of paper. I'd like write out the whole alphabet. I'd circle the letters that
Okay.
I liked
Yeah.
and try to like spell something out of it and
Yeah.
make my own name that way. And the first name I came up with was Cirque. It was like short for Berserk.
Okay.
And I ran with that for the first 2 years, and it was like horrible because the name was just a bad fit for me. It was,
Okay.
you know,
And Zerk
It's-
was with the S or Z?
it was with an S.
Okay.
It was a SERK.
Okay.
And yeah, the letters were just they didn't work for me.
Okay.
I mean, the S and the E was like very similar in nature. It was like round, and then the R and the K were like two stick letters,
Yeah.
and they were like they weren't alternating. It was like two round, two stick letters. It didn't work well for me as far as like piecing and throw ups and letters and tag styles. I just had a hard time with the name.
And what year was this when Cirque was came to life?
Fall of '84.
84,
Yeah,
fall of 84.
October. Yeah, it was around there.
And being in New York, right, in 84, because it's a way different time than
Mm-hmm.
today. How do you go about getting like your spray paint or utensils that you used to get up? Was it like all homemade or did you guys have a spot or how would you guys go about that?
Oh, we had a racket.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to go out and find spots.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Woolworths was one of the spots I used to get paint at.
You say Woolworks?
Yeah, Woolworth.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Woolworth
Woolworths.
was one of the like best spots for like I think they had Town and Country paint, and then of course Krylon,
Yeah.
and then any mom and pop store in the area.
How was it doing your first rack mission? Like, how was the thrill of it?
It was crazy. I was kind of nervous. I mean, I was racking stuff before I got into grinding. I
Yeah.
was like stealing like batteries and transformer toys and stupid shit, like,
Yeah.
whatever. But when it got into like graph, my buddy was showing me how to rack, and it was like the style of racking he had was like the pin in the sleeve
Yeah.
routine. He had a safety pin he would run through the sleeve and
Yeah.
close it off, and then he would throw it over his shoulder, and then he would walk into the store, walk to the back, and then like take the cans and just drop them in the sleeve,
Yeah.
and then he would fold the jacket over and throw it over his shoulder like a J.C. Penney's model and walk out with the cans.
So he was smooth with it.
He was kind of smooth. And I was surprised nobody stopped us because
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was literally like 12 years old and he was like maybe 13, and like we had no business going to a hardware
Yeah.
store. Like, what is a 12-year-old, 13-year-old going to do in a hardware store? Like, get power tools or anything like
Yeah.
equipment? Like, no. Like, I mean, I was surprised no one stopped and said, "Hey, can I help you with anything?" Like, nothing. We just went back there. They didn't even have paint in cages back there. It was just like on shelves, and you went back there and dropped a couple of cans back there. And then he's like, "Yeah, that's how you rack paint."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Damn, for real?" I was like, 2 cans at a time. It's going to take a long time to build up a
Yeah.
stash. And I was like, whatever. And I remember me trying it for the first time. I
Yeah.
racked one, and I was like, looking at the cans. And I didn't know which brand was the brand to get. I didn't know anything about Rusto
Or Krylon.
or anything
Yeah.
like that. All I saw was like, I'm going to grab the most expensive can in here.
Yeah.
So there was a can of this black can of Varathane paint,
Yeah.
and it was like $8 or $9 for, and that's like expensive as hell for like 1984. So I was like, ooh, that's expensive as hell. I'm gonna grab that.
$8,
can.
$9. So they would be like what,
something
like 20
crazy like
bucks?
that. Yeah. So yeah, I threw that
Yeah.
into my pants and threw my shirt over and walked out of it.
Yeah.
And we went to the tracks by the house, and I was like, I'm gonna test this out right
Yeah.
now. And I shook it like, for a second, and I took the cap off, and I was like testing it out. I was like,
Yeah.
let me get on this wall right here. And after me spraying it for a couple seconds, no black was coming out of it.
Yeah.
And I kept on shaking this can. I was doing it again. And then I looked at the can, and on the bottom, I didn't notice it was a can of like crystal clear. I was like, oh, man, you serious? I was like, damn.
They got you. They were like, they got me.
Yeah, that was my first racking experience, man. It was stupid.
So I know you say a young 12-year-old, you're rolling with your buddy. You're 2 years in, and you're painting Cirque. When you change your name, is that when Duel comes, or is that another name?
Yeah. I mean, I had a bunch of names in between.
Yeah.
But I kept on going back to Cirque because I was like, yeah, that name is gonna work. Oh, there's another person that has that name or something. I was like, you know what? This name sounds stupid.
Time to change it.
And I kept on doing it until I actually ended up with Duel.
And where does Duel come from? Is it just a thought, or is there something behind it?
I was trying to mimic like more or less like people that I liked. You know?
Okay.
Like there was a guy like Dole CAC, like the pineapple.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like a inside killer. Like the dude had like nice hands. So I was like, ooh, that guy got a fresh hand style, and his tags coming out nice. So I was like, yeah, I want something similar to that. He also had a nice throw up. Then there was some other guys in the area that had some pretty cool names and stuff like that. And I borrowed a little bit of their stuff, to make my name.
Gotcha. And coming out, right? So you're out there and you're painting. And I mean, there was guys out there painting before you, right?
Yeah.
So coming out a youngster, was it hard to like maneuver through them? Like, did you kind of have to prove yourself to the older writers, or was it all just mutual? Like, we're doing our thing, you do your thing.
Yeah, well, I don't think I was received well when I came out.
No.
Nah, I mean, to be honest, I was like super mad too. I didn't have anybody to like show me the ropes. Like, I didn't have an older brother. I didn't have any mentor. It was just me and my buddy. You know what I'm saying? We were both.
Shout out the buddy, though. Shout out the buddy.
He used to write Cess.
Shout out Cess.
Not Cess, from the Bronx. Not Cess, not him. But I'm cool with him too as well. But, he was the one who actually got me into it. You know what I'm saying? And we were both dumb,
Well, what situations will make you say that you weren't having like a warm welcoming when you were coming out?
Well, all right. I mean, this is all like self-inflicted stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because first off, I mean, like I said, I didn't have nobody showing me the ropes. I didn't know what the rules of engagement were. I didn't know what the rules were.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm out there. I'm biting people's stuff.
Yeah.
Which bothered people. Then I was like going over dudes, clipping them, side busting them, and doing stupid stuff. Like, oh, you know what? Look, there's a nice white spot on a mailbox. Not realizing that's a dude's tag right there. I'm like, it's a white spot.
Yeah.
Mailbox is dark blue. I'm like, I'm going to use this black pilot right here. I'm going to take a tag right in this white area so people can see my stuff.
Yeah.
Not realizing I went over somebody.
Oh.
Like that kind of stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Then
how are these guys taking it? Were they kind of like, hey man, what are you doing? Like trying to fight, or how?
No, just people would just be like, you know what? Who's that guy that went over me? Anybody know this person? And it was it was a small, neighborhood. Everybody was kind of like pointing fingers and talking about like, yeah, that kid right there, that dude's right, that did that over you.
Yeah.
And then I would get approached by these kids, and they weren't even kids. They were like 16, 17 years old.
And you're 12.
Yeah, and that's huge, in young man's age, you know what I'm saying? And, I mean, that's 5-year difference. I mean, these kids were like already like on the way to being men. And I'm like still like riding around, 80 pounds on a skateboard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't good. So yeah, I mean, already right off the bat, that was already putting me in
the bad position.
Light. Yeah. Then I was writing, then there's just places that I was writing besides going over people. I would write on like a church.
Yeah.
Or someone's personal garage or personal property. Like, I was like, hey.
But it's because you didn't know. You were
right, I didn't
you were
know.
just trying to earn your stripes.
Oh, look, someone's garage, this is a good spot because everybody walks by here.
Yeah.
Like, cop a tag with a pilot on there. So that's that's the type of stupid nonsense I was doing. And so like, I literally had like half my neighborhood looking for me. I'm like,
it got that bad.
Yeah, it got that stupid.
Yeah.
So after 2 years of that, plus the horrible name and not being able to do anything with that name, I was like, you know what? I'm going to secretly change my name and not tell anybody and just start brand new.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how that whole thing started. And I ended up with Duel after doing the same thing. I wrote the whole alphabet out, circle all the letters I liked. This time I was like, you know what? I want to get a word that's actual word, and that's a made-up nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm going to base it off of like people that I saw that I liked. and I like kind of appropriated a little piece of this and that from each person that I liked and formed the name.
Dope. And you formed the name, right? You start out fresh. Anywhere down the line, do you end up running into a mentor, or is it always just by yourself?
I mean, the closest persons that I would say that were mentors to me was what probably Crow, RIS.
Okay.
He was like the big bro. I mean, he would tell me some things here and there.
How did
He,
that relationship come about?
like I said, I ran into him on the bus. We exchanged numbers.
Yeah.
Um, and then I went to school like around a private school that was right up the street from where
Yeah.
he lived. So when I, during lunch or like classes I didn't care too much for, I would cut out and hang out with him for a little bit,
Yeah.
look at his little photo albums and stuff like that, check out his black books.
Yeah.
He would give me some points and tips and stuff like that here and there. Another guy that I would probably say that, was kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say he was a mentor, but he definitely was like another big bro type was this kid Stain.
Okay.
CWB, you know what I'm saying? He was a little older than me, and he was maybe like about 6 months to a year
Yeah.
ahead of me in the game. And I mean, I hung out with him a lot at his house. So all the little trial and error ridiculous nonsense that he was doing, I just made sure that I didn't do the same thing, or he would just tell me about it and whatever.
And at this point, do you leave your buddy behind, the original buddy that got you on? Like
He quit after like maybe a summer.
Oh, okay.
He didn't go that much. He was more of like a ladies' man type of dude. He was
And you
more into that.
and you stay dedicated. Like I'm gonna keep doing.
I didn't know it was going to turn into like something like that. Had no idea it was going to be like some drug that you couldn't shake. You know, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I had no idea. I just thought it was just a goof at first. Like, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll do it for some time.
yeah. And I didn't know it was going to turn into this. You know,
Gotcha. So I know you say you run into him on the bus, right?
yeah,
From
yeah,
RIS.
yeah.
Was the bus movement? I mean, did you guys have a bus movement kind of like LA? Because I know RTD was pretty big down here.
No, it wasn't like that. It was more like well, actually, I take that back. I mean, it might have been like before my time. It was
Yeah.
like that. I mean, there would be some graph on buses, the old, super old style buses.
Yeah.
The newer style buses, not so much. I would
Okay.
remember people would just etch their names in the plexiglass windows
Yeah.
or whatever Lexan windows that they had.
Yeah.
That's about as far as it went. Maybe a marker tag in the back,
Okay.
where because it would have the back exit. There would be like that little booth like looking thing. They would write
Yeah.
their name on the back of that.
Hit it up real quick.
A sticker or two. Nothing,
Yeah.
nothing like what like LA was doing. Like those TBK guys and like Gen 1 and all that crazy
Yeah.
stuff. No, I wouldn't doing it like that. No.
But you guys still had the subways going while you were coming up, or not no more?
Oh yeah. So subways were
Like you have different lines.
yeah, it was in full effect when I was around. But I mean, I was too young to really get out there like that. I mean, I hit a couple of trains when during the time when it was bombed, but I didn't go like some of these other cats.
So you were participating in a subway painting.
Yeah,
How was the experience for those out here in the West Coast that they didn't get to experience that?
I didn't do
know-
a lot, so
yeah.
I ain't gonna try to front like
Yeah.
like some.
But very lightly.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was a couple trips here and there. Most of the times I went for like insides, I would just do like motions. It was like I had keys or anything like that. I couldn't come out late like that because my
Yeah.
parents were super strict.
Yeah.
So it would have to be like during school. I would cut out. Me and my boys would go out there with some dry ass pilot. Just we would just ride the train to the last stop, wait till everybody got off, and then we'd be like, "Quick, look out! Stick your head out the door." And then cop as many tags as you could possibly cop.
Yeah.
Or like if we would walk from car to car, we'd find a car that had less people on it, but like, "Yo, block me real quick," and just
Yeah.
cop a tag while the thing was in motion, moving. That's pretty much what we were doing. For bombing trains, you'd have to go when the train was out of service and go to a layup or a yard. I didn't have access to anything like that. I only knew where one was
Yeah.
because I did the motions.
Okay.
And the first time I actually hit the outside of a train was in '86, and it was like the fall of '86, and Saint TMR was like, "Look, I'm gonna put you down with TMR,
Okay.
but you got to bomb trains though." And I was like, "Word, you gonna take me?" He's like, "Nah, you're gonna go by yourself." I was like, "What?" I was like, "You're crazy.
gotta
man." I was
prove
like, "No." He's like,
yourself.
Look, man, you gotta go. I was like, "All right." So I snuck out of my house. I took the bus. That was like a 40-minute ride, 30-minute ride to
Yeah.
the train station. And I took the train from Main Street all the way to Queensboro Plaza,
Yeah.
which was another like 30, 40-minute ride.
Oh wow.
And then I had to transfer to another train, which was the R train, and take that all the way to Astoria. That was like deep into Queens.
Ooh.
And it was an elevated layup.
Okay.
I knew it was there because, like I said, that was one of the trains we used to do our motions thing. So I knew it parked there
Yeah.
at night. And so I had to wait till everybody got off the platform. I
Yeah.
walked into the platform station and I walked down on the tracks. And I was super afraid of heights back then. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm doing this. It was like probably like 2 a.m. or something like that. And it was a school night.
Yeah.
You know, my parents had no idea I was outside or nothing. And I was looking down and I was like freaking out because I could see cars driving
Okay.
on the street
Yeah.
and people walking and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope I don't fall through the tracks and kill myself. You know,
Yeah.
it's crazy. But I remember I was like, you know what? Don't look down. Don't look down. Just get up to the train and just do your thing. And I did 4 throw-ups there, but they were tiny, pitiful throw-ups, man. I mean, it was the saddest look at those ever because first of all, I was small, I was short,
Yeah.
I couldn't reach very high. You know, I mean, off the track, you know what I'm saying, standing on whatever. And I was trying to reach out. I don't even think I made it halfway up to the window. And I did these throw-ups. They were real tiny. I barely dusted them in, dusty fills. I did 4 of them. And I was freaked out because the train was making these crazy noises. I mean, it was just like let off some steam. I think the door even popped open for a split second.
It's like
closed itself.
It's like you had to be there to
Oh my God. I was freaking scared as hell. It was cold. Like I said, I was by myself. Nobody showed me the ropes, the traffic, the heights, everything. And all of a sudden I freaking hear, you know, the tracks clicking and making all their little weird noise. I look to the left and the train is coming. Oncoming train's coming. The lights on there. And then all of a sudden start banging the horns and everything. I freaking darted up the freaking, down the catwalk, up the platform. And then I took that same train back home. I went back home and I was like, hell no, I ain't getting stuck out. 'Cause the bus stops running at a certain time. So I was like, you know what? I better get back before they cut me off and I have to walk back. I was like, let me get back there.
Just to take a quick step back, brother.
Yeah.
When you say motion, I know you use the word motion.
Uh-huh.
What are you referring to as far as motion?
That means the train is actually in service.
Okay.
And you're taking tags or doing whatever bombing you're doing on the train.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
When it's like laid up, that means it's out of service. They got it parked in a yard or in between stations, like, you know, where they just leave them overnight.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, at night, you know, or during non-rush hour times,
Yeah.
they don't need to have all those trains in circulation, so they just park them.
And
that's ideal when people bomb them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Would you say that would be the last time you had the chance to hit a subway car, or did you have?
No, I went a couple other times,
Okay.
but a lot of the times that I went, either something wasn't there or the person taking me there was like, yo, it seems a little hot. I don't know. I don't think we're going to do anything here today.
Okay.
So I might have gone to like maybe like 15 different spots, but only like hit maybe 3 or 4 times.
Going to these spots, who can you recall that you would see up on these subways already? I know you didn't get
On
to
the outside?
Yeah.
A lot of KSW dudes.
Okay.
You know, like AI, Mega AZ,
Okay.
some risk guys, you know, like Ghost,
Okay.
Gato, Crow, Saint,
Okay.
Scent.
And was these full color burners, or was it just like throw ups and tags?
A little bit of everything.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like an outdoor gallery in a way.
Yeah. I mean, literally. I mean, but by the time I got into it, you know, it was like a free for all and pretty much like a race for space.
Okay.
So, you know, I mean, and, you know, people wanted to get one little throwy or a little piece on each car. Because, you know, that showed like your dominance on that line and
Gotcha.
called the king for that, you know?
I know in LA in the 90s,
Mhm.
I want to say like early, probably mid 90s, there was a situation where some riders would do like more territorial type thing, which later they labeled it as tag banging.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys have anything of that kind out there in New York?
Nah, no tag banging, no.
No? It was just strictly for the art?
Strictly for the art, but I mean, once you get into like some beefs with the neighbors, then yeah, it's kind of territorial, but not like they're not writing like, you know, street names like and going over people.
Yeah.
Crews will go over each other
Yeah.
and stuff like that. You know, like, yeah, they would be going over each other, and they would, you know, you didn't want to go into those neighborhoods because you knew like,
You don't want to be up in there.
yeah, but it wasn't the same thing. It wasn't like dudes are going to come with street sweepers and blow up the whole bus stop and everything. We were
Yeah.
hanging out 7-Eleven or something
Yeah.
like that. And they weren't rocking colors and throwing up hand signs and
Okay.
symbols and all kinds of stuff like that. They weren't doing anything like that. No. I mean, it
Gotcha.
would be more or less like, you knew what areas these kids hung out at, like, the neighborhood 7-Eleven or the
Yeah.
corner or certain parks. You just didn't go there if you had beef with them, you
Gotcha.
know?
Because I mean, hip hop being such an important element to the culture, how was it being in New York in the early '80s for hip hop? How was it? Was it that important to you? Like, were you like influenced by hip hop at all, or was it just more like you were just minding your own business, doing your own thing?
Like, me breakdancing and like
Yeah,
music stuff like
yeah,
that. I was just mostly into graph. I
okay,
mean, I loved like hip hop and rap and all that stuff
yeah,
like that. I used to rack a lot of, all the 80s stuff, like the CDs and tape cassettes and stuff. I mean, I always wanted to be kind of like a DJ, but I
yeah,
mean, I didn't have the know-how and equipment or the money
yeah,
to do such a thing. So, I mean, I didn't get into that. And then obviously breakdancing wasn't something I could get into, even though my boy was into it. He
yeah.
probably could have shown me what was up, but I was just like too uncoordinated for that nonsense. I was like,
I'm gonna stick to spray, man.
yeah, I was like, that was like my strongest suit out of all the elements. So I just stuck with that.
And I know you mentioned as a kid, taking a little step back, as a kid, going to church and back, you would see this stuff on the highways.
Hmm.
At any point, did you take part in painting the highways?
Yeah, definitely. That was like one of my one of the things I got known for quickly was
Okay,
bombing highways. Yeah, I started off on the highways where I started seeing it first, LIE, and then it just expanded outwards. I didn't have a car back then, but I mean, I used to paint with some people that did,
okay,
and so that was the thing that because that was the next best thing to hitting um outside of transit, because
okay.
everybody was focused on bombing trains, but it was like very little room, and it was pretty violent back in the mid to late 80s,
Okay.
because everybody was like fighting for spots. Rack spots were getting kind of burnt.
Yeah.
So people go into yards and they didn't have any business being there, or were wandering into neighborhoods they didn't belong in. They
Yeah.
would get robbed for that. Coats, jackets, shoes, sneakers,
Oh wow.
whatever was in their pocket and their bag of paint would get taxed. So a lot of guys started bombing streets, either downtown Manhattan. They would start hitting gates and streets and highways and rooftops and stations and stuff like that as an alternative.
And was this going on before they did the whole buff in the cars? Like people were already transitioning to the highways and streets?
Yeah, I mean, everyone was trying to do a little bit of everything.
Okay,
Everybody
gotcha.
was trying to do a little bit of everything, but obviously when the trains went full blown clean, that's when everything poured out on the streets for real.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was like a free for all. But everybody wanted to focus mainly on like Brooklyn and Manhattan. That
Yeah.
seemed like where everybody traveled to go to clubs or do their shopping
Gotcha.
or do their hanging out. That's where everybody went.
Uh,
So
can you share a little bit about the experience of being there for that? Like the cars are no more, right? No more subway painting because of what happened, which we all know
mhm.
that went buff. How was it being there for that transition where like everybody's like, okay, what's next? Boom, the streets. Let's go get it.
Pretty much. I mean, everybody was just. I mean, it was like a time where everybody was just hanging out. Like everybody was always outside.
Yeah.
Because it was like no one was really doing video games like that. There was no internet. It was everybody just linked up, hung out in giant groups, and just walked around the city like 20, 30 deep,
Yeah.
drinking 40s, and had one or two cans on them, markers, copper tags on every little thing that they saw and came across. Because there would be so many of us, people would just be blocking people's views, so you could just take those tags,
Yeah.
or just places would be shut down and abandoned at night, that everyone literally could just get the spots wherever they were at.
So you will see like rooftops being thrown up with burners and stuff as well, like rooftops and or just
I
tags,
don't know about burns, but yeah, people were bombing them though.
like bombing and throw ups.
Yeah, just it was mostly tags, and then yeah, you get the occasional throw ups. It's not as crazy as it is today. Like dudes are doing big stompers on the street, like
Yeah.
big silvers and rollers and all kinds of crazy stuff that are going on right now. It was more like tags and throw ups, outlines,
Okay.
and stuff like that back then.
And coming up, I mean, when you were out there, at any point did you run into any other writer that wasn't from New York? Maybe like an outsider?
Uh, I mean, there was a couple of guys. One guy in particular I remember he used to write Icy.
I see.
I can't remember how he spelled it. It might be ICEY or ICEE.
Okay.
I think he was from Miami, All the King's Men or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the first dude that I met that came from out of town. And he was a cool dude. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I mean, but he had such a different style. And I just remember looking at his style like, ugh, it's kind of boo-boo, my man. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But, but he was cool though. He did his thing and that was it. But yeah, I wasn't really familiar with anything outside of New York.
Yeah.
And it was like, and New York is like one of those places like, during the time when I was coming up, like if you weren't from the five boroughs, like no one really wanted to acknowledge you. We were like Long Island, Yonkers, anything outside, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Staten, Bronx or anything like that. We didn't really care like what you had to bring to the table,
Yeah, I don't care
at
where
the
you
time.
come from. If you're not from the barrels,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how most of us were thinking at that time. But I mean, it eventually changed. It, things became more acceptable and then more welcome.
Gotcha. I know you also mentioned that you didn't think you were gonna last this long painting because it was kind of like I'm just doing it for the moment.
Yeah,
But at what point do you tell yourself like this is something I'm really gonna keep doing for maybe possibly the rest of my life?
I still didn't think it was gonna happen. I mean,
No.
yeah, I started doing it, and it got addicting, and I just kept on doing it until I was like in my 20s. And I was like surprised I was still doing it. But it was all the guys that were older than me, they were doing it. So I was like, all right, if you're doing it, then I'll keep on doing it.
Let's rock.
And it kept on going. I did get into a lot of trouble for it, man, because like graffiti was like a gateway crime for me. I then started doing other things
Yeah.
and ended up on probation. And then at that point, I was like, well, I'm at the chill. And then I had to take a break from like 94, 95 on. I didn't write for like 12 years or something like that. I didn't come.
Oh, you
until, like,
took a big break.
2006, yeah.
Oh, that's a big break.
Yeah. I mean, because of, adult stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Because I know you mentioned you had really strict parents. I'm sure they didn't take it lightly when you got into probation.
Oh no, hell no. They were pissed.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, they were real pissed about that. As any parent should be, but
So you take this long break, right?
Mhm.
For your personal reasons. What made you come back?
oh well, the same kid Stain, CWB, he dragged me back into it.
Yeah.
Him and this kid Sphere, CWK.
Okay.
Yeah, them two guys were guys I knew from my neighborhood back in Queens, and they moved out here.
When you say out here, you mean LA?
Yeah, LA. They're somewhere out here, Hollywood, whatever. And
Okay.
then, at the time I was living in San Diego.
Okay.
They were like, "Hey, look, what are you up to right now?" And I'm like, "Nothing." They were like, "Hey, we're gonna go down by your way
Yeah.
because we're gonna do a little painting. You wanna come out?"
Yeah.
And like painting. I was like, "What kind of painting?" You know what I'm saying? They were like, we're gonna do some pieces.
Yeah.
I was like, "Nah, I'm all right, man. I don't do that shit." You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I was like, they're like, "Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna just come and hang out or something."
Yeah.
And my lady was like, "Yo, come and get this clown. This dude don't never want to go out. He don't want to do nothing."
Y'all could have them.
And I was like, "Yo, you have any idea what these dudes are trying to do right now?" I was like, "Yo, I don't want to do that, man." I was like, "Yo, just come and get him."
Yeah.
So they came to the house. Well, actually, it was in my apartment, whatever.
Yeah.
They came, got me, took me out there. They was like, "Yeah, man, it's a skate park type thing, and we're gonna do these pieces. We're gonna stop by this spot. It's 100% legal wall spot." And
Okay.
I'm like, "Legal wall? What is that?" You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know what that means.
I've been out the game for so long.
I didn't even know what that was. I was
Yeah.
just like, okay. They took me to some spot. It was called the Writer's Block or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was like a sort of skate park, but more like a painter's park because it had like wooden walls assembled in
Okay.
rows, and there was pieces and burners and all kinds of stuff or walls that people practiced on.
The writer's block.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was down in San Diego. I'm not sure exactly what city it was, but it was somewhere down there.
Yeah.
And they took me to some store and we grabbed some Montana hardcore.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what that was. Because at first they said Montana and I thought they were talking about the state. I had no idea what
Yeah.
they were talking about. I was like, what?
You were looking for the Krylas and the Rustos.
Yeah, I was thinking Carlos, Russo's, we're gonna stop at Home Depot or Lowe's or something like
Yeah.
that. They ended up taking me to some store, some graph store, and we got a couple of hardcores. And they were like, yeah, it's like some Euro paint. I was like, Euro paint?
Like, what is it?
I was like, yeah, I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't even know where in Europe or anything. I was really shocked. They was like, yeah, this paint's made for writers. Like,
Yeah.
so this is really designed for writers. Like, that's crazy. Went out there, did this piece. It came out pretty decent.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it's not bad for some dude that ain't written in 12 years, you know?
Yeah.
And then my boy Stain ends up putting it on a site called Streets of Saying Things. It was ran by Stern and Sast.
What was the site again?
Streets of Saying Things,
Okay.
Saster,
Okay.
Saster.net or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was like it was like one of the earlier this is before social media and all that stuff,
Yeah.
Facebook and MySpace. It was before all that. It was like right around the same time when they had Flickr. Like Flickr was like where you could dump your photos,
I remember
share
Flickr,
them with people. But Sasser was the graph version of that, and people could like leave comments on the bottom,
Yeah.
make a profile, come on there and be like, "Yeah, this guy's fresh. This guy's toy shit."
Oh, screw this guy.
Yeah, it was one of those sites. So
Yeah.
people left comments on there like, "Oh snap, that's good to see this dude's back."
Where's he
Man.
been all these years?
Yeah, that was like it, and I was like, "Wow, people still remember who I was." I'm
we
surprised.
missed this guy. Bring him back.
Yeah, so when I saw that, that's when I started sneaking out and finding little cutty spots and doing pieces and throwies and,
Yeah.
and submitting photos to my boy, and he would submit them to them, and they would post it, and I would like go online and see
Yeah.
what they had to say, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. And that was like the beginning of me like coming back.
And how was the girlfriend at the time? Still accepting it, or when
She had no idea I even wrote. She had no idea
She-
at all. She
she
didn't
just
know what
knew you
that
were
was.
going out.
Nothing. And now she's like, yo, are you serious?
I should have never let you go out.
Nah, she's actually cool about it. She's actually cool about it.
That's
I'm actually
cool, man.
very lucky. She's cool with that.
It's a very awesome thing to have a significant other that
Yeah,
respects what you do, because it could go bad and be like, hey man, I don't want you doing that, and then you're just back and forth.
Yeah, no, she's actually pretty cool about it.
So how did the transition, taking a little step back, how did the transition from New York all the way to San Diego happen?
I got stationed out here.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you were military.
Yeah, for a little bit, yeah.
Oh well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And then so you're hanging out with these guys, you get back into it, and what's next for you? You're saying you're coming out, you're doing spots, you're submitting photos, and then what's next?
Later on I was like, you know what? Let me just try to sling a little something on eBay.
Yeah.
I put a couple of maps on there, a couple of stickers, a couple of things out there, little
Yeah.
canvas boards and whatnot,
Yeah.
and moved a couple of pieces. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, And then I was like, to promote that, I was like, I got to go do some more stuff,
Okay.
at least for some flicks. And then, that was like when early shops, early graph shops were out there. And they would host events.
Okay.
Like my boy ZC, he had that air graphics shop. He would invite me out there and he
Shout
would
out
host.
CC.
Yeah, he would invite me out there and he would host it. There would be DJ battles, MC battles,
And
live painting.
You would come from San Diego all the way to Long Beach?
Yeah, I came out there to support him because he was originally from the Lower East Side in New York.
Oh, so you knew him from back home.
I didn't know him from back home, but just
Okay.
because he was from New York, I was like, I gotta go see this dude
Yeah.
because dude's from New York, and he also knew like the same people that I knew. So I was like, I gotta go
some
support
love.
this guy. Yeah. And then he ended up being like one of the coolest dudes I ever met,
Gotcha.
And so, we ended up becoming close friends, and I would come out to his spot every now and then. And whenever he was hosting events, I would go out there and be one of the guys live painting for him.
Nice.
Yeah.
It must have been an awkward situation coming from a time where all you know is racking to get your paint, and to now walking into a store and like a graffiti store.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird. You kind of feel ashamed of having to say, yeah, I bought this paint. Let me get some of these cans right here. But I mean, times are different. You don't want to go. I don't want to go down for racking.
Yeah, and I hear you.
Not nothing petty like that. I mean, if
Yeah.
I want to rack and go down for it, man, it better be a truck
A whole
full of
container.
that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Breaking news:
yeah.
a guy named Duel takes a whole container full of spray
yeah,
paint.
something like that.
Nah, I get you. And did you connect with any writers in San Diego at all while you were out there?
Yeah, I met a couple.
Yeah. How was the scene out there? Like when you were coming out, how was the scene in San Diego?
It's kind of hard to say because I mean, San Diego's really, anti-graffiti and pretty spotless.
Okay.
I mean, you got like your little cutty spots, like your little river spots, tunnel spots,
Yeah.
bridge spots. But like as far as like highways, like that thing gets buffed like immediately.
Really?
Yeah, stickers get peeled down. I mean, you find some spots here and there, but not. It's very seldom that thing will rock.
Okay.
You know, I mean, many times I've gone out and done some throwies out there, or whatever, and you know, unless it's like hard to get to,
Yeah.
if it's out in the public eye, that thing is gone before the sun freaking hits it.
Oh wow.
Sometimes, yeah,
It's
it's quick.
tough.
They don't play around over there.
So you would
And
have to go hit more like a yard type thing to last.
yeah, for the most part, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're strict too. They enforce that. I mean, they will definitely come to your house
Oh
and kick
wow.
that door down if you, if
Take
you
it.
get a little crazy out there with that.
Is
At
there?
least, I mean, I didn't have that experience, thank God. But I mean, I have heard from other writers that I talked to. They were like, "Yeah, man, you wilding out here because this is the type of stuff they be on over here. So you might want to be a little bit more careful or calm down a little something."
Is there some writers that you could say that names that like you would see up or maybe met in San Diego? Like some guys that were doing
I didn't see a lot of dudes like up. Like I said, it was a lot of stuff was getting clean, but I did meet some guys and I ended up painting with some of the dudes, like my boy Ache. He used to write the hell he write Saga. He used to write Saga.
Okay.
I'm so cool with him and this kid Zone WST, Wild Style Tex, him and Izzy and
Okay.
this kid Days from the
They
same crew. Yeah, those guys. I was hanging out with them guys
okay.
for a little bit.
And now that we mentioned cruise, at what point do you enter cruise?
Um,
I know you said your old friend put you down with RIS.
yeah.
Is that the only crew you ever were part down with, or was it?
No, I'm down with a lot of crews actually, but I mainly put up RIS because that was what the guys I hung out with the most.
Okay.
Um, and you know, I'm close to pretty much all the members in that crew.
Okay.
You know, I'm not saying that I'm not cool with all these other guys, but you know, some of these other crews, you know, I mean, I put them up when I'm with the presidents of those crews, or like
Yeah.
I'm with those members, or I'm in their area. For the most part.
How important is it for you to represent the crew? Do you take a tremendous amount of pride representing the crew? Is it like a family to you?
Yeah, for the most part, that's what
Yeah.
that's how I like to look at it. Yeah,
Okay.
you know, I mean, when we were younger, I mean, it was a little easier to get down with some of these crews and be like, "Oh, you're getting up, or you're cool, throw up my crew."
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, you'd end up with probably being down with like 20, 30 crews.
Oh wow.
It was kind of almost like collecting ribbons. You'd have a whole
Yeah.
bunch of them to show for your service in the game, but
Yeah.
that's how it was. But you know, as you get a little bit older, you know, you start to represent, the the loosely organized crew that you're in,
Got you.
for who the people are, for the
Definitely.
most part. You know what I'm saying? Like, guys are gonna look out no matter what, through thick and thin, have
Yeah.
your back on every issue. You know,
No matter
guys
what.
that you deal with on a daily basis. You're close to them and their families and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah. Once you meet the family, it's definitely the next level.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what it is for me. Like, and most of the guys in this, you know.
I know you take part in a lot of freight painting. How did that come about? Was it just hopping into the freight yards, or was there a particular reason you ended up in freights out here?
Okay, so I mean, like, you know, growing up in New York City, like, bombing freights wasn't really popular in the 80s and 90s for me.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, why are you doing that? You're
Okay.
wasting paint,
Yeah.
because it was more about actual transit, commuter trains and that type of thing.
Like the subways.
Right. And then, people didn't really want to hit freights because, it was something that, if you hit it, one, it was like rusty and trashy looking, and it was like uneven surfaces, and it was like horrible.
Yeah.
So, and then people didn't want to do it because they were like, who's going to see this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not like you can, benching was a thing for that back then,
Gotcha.
at least not for a guy from the city. And there weren't that many spots for that anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to hit him a couple of times then, but not really.
Okay.
So I was familiar with it, but I wasn't really
Heavy
on
on
about it. Yeah. It wasn't until I got out here, I hit a couple down in San Diego, a couple spots. Actually, hit him on the base. Actually, had a spot there.
Yeah.
I snuck out, caught a couple of those down there, and then it wasn't until I moved up here to this area, till I got into it.
Is there
See,
something
before
that
you just go,
is there something that led you particularly in there?
Yeah, one of my buddies, he's a moniker guy.
Okay.
He goes by the name Nihilist. He was he used to hit one of the yards up here,
Yeah.
and he kept on telling me, he's like, you should go check that yard out. And I'm like, I don't want to go check that yard
Yeah.
out. He's like, you should go check that yard out, and he kept on doing it for a good minute. And then I was just like, all right, you know what? All right, I want to hear this
I'm
yard.
gonna go check
nonsense
it
no
out.
more. I'll go take a look at it. He's like, cool. When you get there, FaceTime me. I'll show you, I'll show you around.
Yeah.
And one literally like walked me in through the phone. I'm in there broad daylight. I'm like in there with mean streaks,
Yeah.
doing little throwies on tankers. And then after that, when I left, I was like, yeah, that experience was a little overrated. I didn't really care for it that much, but whatever. Another writer from a nearby area goes by Rovas and shit. He saw my moniker, throw up, whatever, and he hits me on Instagram. He's like, yo, and he put his moniker next to my throw up.
Yeah.
He wrote Yo Duel, and I was like, oh snap. I was like, where'd you get that at? Like as if like that thing had pulled out already, rolled some other place or something. He's like, yo, right down here. He's like, oh shit, that's the same spot I just came from. I was like, that's crazy. So we started talking online, and then he was like, you know what? I got some spots near my place. I live near some spots. So maybe if you got some time, I could show you. And this is like during 2020, like, 2019, 2020, where like
Kind of
COVID and everybody's not out and whatever. And there was really nothing to do. I had a lot of silver in my house. So I was like, all right, I'll come out there and roll with you.
I'm ready.
And we were banging on these intermodals left and right. I'm not even playing around.
Like
I was
heavy.
hitting every car, every day. Like, it was crazy. I was doing throwies, straight letters, simple pieces and all that. But after a while, these pictures started looking the same because, the throw up is like kind of cookie cutter for me.
Yeah.
It's like they all look the same and every photo started looking the same. So I was like, we got to hit some other cars.
Yeah.
Is there any other spots where we go to? I want to hit those ones that have like those little holes in them and everything.
Yeah.
Holy roller, I think they call it. And I was like, he's like, yeah, I got a spot for that. So he takes me to a spot in Long Beach.
Yeah.
And I go in there and I bring a half a bucket with me and this little cheap roller with me. And I roll out an end to end. It was like halfway up. It was like from ladder to ladder.
Yeah.
Bang. I do this little mini roller. And it only took me about an hour. I was like, ooh, if it only took an hour, next one I got to do is got to be a whole car.
Yeah.
And I still use that same cheap little mini roller. And it took me like the following week, I did a whole car on an auto rack. And it literally took me like 5 hours because I used this smallest roller.
Ooh.
I didn't cut it with no water. And I just like rolled it super solid. And I was like, oh my God. But you know what? The thing was like, to me, like the most amazing thing because it was so big. And I was like, holy shit. So
top to bottom. Those are.
Yeah, I was like, damn. I was like, yo, I got to do this all the time now. And then I started, doing more auto racks. And I was like, let me try doing a hopper.
Yeah.
I did a hopper. And then I just, got hooked. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep on doing it.
You got to keep them coming.
And like the following year or two after that, I got into the monikers thing, with because my boy Nihilist was one of them. And then this kid I hang out with currently now, this kid Jails, he got into doing a moniker as well. So
gotcha.
I made one, man. You should make one too. I was like, I don't think so, man. That's kind of cool. I don't think I want to do that.
What is something that you think an upcomer today should know about going inside a freight yard to paint freights?
What do they need to know?
Something that they should know that you could share. As far as like maybe maintaining the yard or something they shouldn't
Oh
do.
man, maintaining your yard is definitely a big one, man. Take your trash with you, man. Don't leave your trash, on the tracks, man. You could throw your trash on a dumpster train or like on the porch of the hopper.
Yeah.
Or even just tuck it between, the little wheels area, you know what I'm saying? So that even if it doesn't stay, it'll like transport out of the yard and maybe pop out maybe somewhere in transit.
Yeah.
But don't leave it in the yard. I would suggest also not like writing and putting stickers and all kinds of stuff outside the yards and stuff like that. That just like draws a lot of attention to those yards. People aren't going to listen. They're going to do it anyway. But I'm just saying, it would be nice if you didn't do that, whatever.
Because I know that they tape the numbers too.
Yeah. That's something different. Yeah. So also, if you're going to paint trains, obviously do the best you can to, like, if you can help it, not write over the numbers, tape them up, or at least pen them back in, or heat shrink them back in when you're done. You take the tape down when you're done, or not mess with the reflectors. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's up to them. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it, whatever. But
it definitely helps keep the spot more low key, and
it keeps the spot low key, and then you don't end up with a big old freaking buff mark square right over your piece anyway. So You know,
So people be going in the phrase to buff, like the buffers.
no, I mean the workers. If you write over the numbers,
Oh, they'll buff you.
it's like writing. You know, it's like spray painting someone's license plate. They're gonna have to freaking
Oh
fix
yeah,
that,
I get
know?
you. I get you.
So if you got your piece over it, you know what I'm saying, you didn't tape it off and remove the tape, you know, it gets, you know, when they're walking the lines, they'll be like, yo, car number, whatever.
Needs a new license plate.
Needs to go to the shop. They're going to take that thing over there and they're going to blast you with a big old buff square right over it and put new numbers right over you.
Have you ever run into workers in the freight yard? Like, are they cool or they be tripping?
You get a little bit of both. Some of them, they probably write too or do monikers and
Yeah.
they're pretty chill. You know, they're like, hey, I'm going to take this line. You guys going to have to freaking hurry it up, man. You know, and
Oh, okay. So
you might get some like some guys like that. Some guys will be like, hey, listen, man, my boss is over here. He might trip. You might want to hurry it up and get out of here. And they'll just be like, hey, look, be safe. We're about to pull this line right here. Don't be leaning on it. Don't crawl underneath it. Don't go between the cars, nothing. And they're cool like that. And then sometimes you'll get, I'm calling the police. Y'all trespassing. You'll get those guys. I mean, one time me, Jaos, and this kid Nike, we were hanging out. We were painting a freaking reefer.
Yeah.
And they were getting ready to take the line. And dude was like, hey, man, we're going to be taking this line. Y'all going to have to hurry it up. And one of the line people was coming down there. And they were like, y'all going to have to get out of here right now. It was a lady, actually. It was female.
Yeah.
And she was like, yo, I have to get out of here right now. We're like, yo, chill, man. We're about to leave right now. We're about to finish it up, take a couple pictures, and we'll be out of your way.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, y'all got to leave right now. And then and me and Nike looked at each other like, yeah, all right. You know, we're going to finish our pieces before we leave. So you can say whatever you want. But we ain't leaving until we get our flicks and we're done.
Yeah.
And she just screams. I was like, y'all motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? She's cursing us out. And then she literally tells us, like, I hope y'all motherfuckers get cut in half. We're like, damn. Are you serious? That's messed up. You know?
That's real messed up. That's harsh to say.
Like, holy shit. Yeah. And
she took it to the next level.
She was ruthless, man. I was like, how you gonna say that, man? That's messed up. But yeah, we finished up and got out of there, and that was that. But
let me ask you something, brother. Throughout your whole journey and your contribution to the graffiti culture, is there anything you regret not doing or doing?
Yeah, probably taking more photos.
Yeah,
that's definitely one of the things that I regret most. Yeah, I always thought like, oh, my stuff will be there, you know what I'm saying? And I know they would come around buffing everything or just dudes would go over it or whatever. So I didn't take as many photos as I would have liked to. I'm
a victim of the same.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us are. Right? I mean, because now it's like easy. You got a smartphone, like 50 shots.
Yeah.
You know, slow-mo, freaking.
Back then it's kind of like.
Yeah, you know, it's like compacts in your pocket. You got your phone out, your portfolio with you all everywhere you go. But back then it wasn't like that. You had to like either rack your film or pay for it.
Yeah.
And then even if you racked the film and batteries,
you still had to
pay for the development. And that wasn't cheap. Yeah. So you just be like, I'm just gonna get that one shot, man. The hell with all these angle shots.
I just need one shot.
You know, you weren't gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna get the night shot, the day shot, you know, from the left side, right side, straight on shot. You know, the action shot, you weren't going to do all that. You were like, nah, I'm just going to get like 1 or 2 final picks. Hope the guy that comes out good. No shadows, no finger in front of the lens and run with that. And hope they don't buff it if the picture does come out like crap and I'll come back and get it.
Man, I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, that's like one thing for sure I definitely regret.
And again, brother, I want to say, you know, thank you for coming in here.
Yo, it was a pleasure coming out here and chopping it up with you, man.
Give me a little bit of your time. I really appreciate you sharing your history and your contribution, and I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And before we get on out of here, brother, is there anyone out there you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to all the people out there that show love and support coming to my shop and the guys who, you know, bench, you know.
Yeah.
Taking pictures and taking the time out to send me the photos and stuff like that.
Hey, shout out to those guys. I don't think they get enough credit. Everybody out there taking pictures and, you know, preserving that. Shout out to you guys, man. I don't think I get enough credit. Until next time, make sure to like and subscribe. And also, make sure to check out gotnocontrol.com and check out our merchandise. Much love. Till next time. Peace.